Greetings everyone. So today I'm going to walk you through building my travel at Eurorack rig. I'm going to be going away for 3 months and I've decided to focus on a specific module and build the rig around that, and I should be able to do all kinds of cool stuff. So the module in question that I'm going to be taking first is Squid Salmple by ALM. So this is something I've had for a while, but I haven't really used it to much at all. So I really want to focus on this because firstly, I want to learn a bit more about sampling. Secondly, it's really cool. And thirdly, it's got 3 volt per octave inputs. And that means I could do chords, I could do triads, which will be quite interesting. So definitely going to be trying out all of that, and as you'll see, everything around this is built to support this. So the case I have doesn't have rails, which is a absolute pain in the behind if you plan on moving modules around. However, if you don't, or also space is an issue, you can actually fit in more modules this way. You get a tiny little bit more space than if you just use the threaded rails. So that's something to bear in mind. And I originally got Squid Salmple because I wanted a sampler, but I wanted something to sample CV, and it can do this. But I never really ended up using it for that, and it's just kind of been sitting there. I used it for one shots, but I really want to explore this, try out the drums, and see where it goes. Make some good music with that. So after this, the next module is another module by ALM, and we can find it over here. And this is, of course, the ubiquitous Pam's new workout. Of course, there's Pam's Pro workout now with a bigger screen, but this is an absolutely fantastic module. I use it so far as just a clock distributor, but it's got all kinds of cool functions, and on a small rig you can really start to make use of the clocked LFOs. It's got a Turing machine as well. So it's going to be really interesting making the full use out of all of these 8 outputs. That's not just various clock divisions. Brilliant. So we get that plugged in too. And this one's always a bit finicky to get in. Lovely. So now, just want to make sure everything's okay. Let's do a very quick power check. And they're both working fine. Brilliant. Next is a Mutable instruments module, and this is probably my favorite sound in the whole wide world. Rings. This is a beautiful sounding instrument. And beyond the fact that it makes the really cool kind of bell tones that we associate with modal synthesis, it's also an effects unit. This has got a chorus, a 4-mount filter, and a really nice reverb on it as well. So you just plug audio on the in and you've got yourself a stereo effects unit, which is pretty cool. So this is definitely something I'm going to be exploring and using with the Squid Salmple. It's always nice to have a kind of chorus phasery kind of vibe. I do have a phaser, but I'm not bringing it because I don't have space. I've got the WMD Orion, which sounds so good. You put that on anything like analog, like stick that on a Mother 32, and it's just a classic sound, right? It's just that classic analog synth sound. So as you can see, screwing and stuff with inserts instead of rails is always fun and games. Always fun and games. And there we go. The next module that I'm bringing is another Mutable Instruments module. And this is Streams. So what this is two VCAs with a filter on them, basically. So it's got a voltage controlled filter and a voltage controlled amplifier. I currently use this mainly for side chaining. It's really nice to have a compressor, but of course it can create really nice envelopes, you know, the old low pass gate vibe as well. And really looking forward to sort of diving into this and using this maybe to create envelopes for some of the for these channels here. Also quite nice to just have a good compressor on board as well, because if I'm going to be processing samples, I want to be able to compress them. So that's why I've got this. I'm going to have to reach over a little bit far. And we're slowly working our way through, The next module is another Mutable Instruments module. This is a filter. So I've got two filters, and the other filter I've got is the Dope Wasp filter, which is really, really nice filter. It's a bit noisy, but it sounds so cool. You know, it's really, you can get some very interesting sounds out of it. You can use it, of course, just as like a normal filter, but when you crack up the resonance, you get all of these like mad artifacts, which are really, really good. However, because we're on a travel rig, I want something a bit more versatile. So I'm bringing ripples. And what this is wonderful sounding filter, but it also self-oscillates as well with volt per octave, and it's got a VCA on it as well. So I can send some cool envelopes from streams if I so desire. And I think it's important to have a filter. I was thinking, do I bring more than one filter? But firstly, Streams has got its own filter, right? So that's something I plan to explore. And on Squid Salmple as well, it's got low pass filters. It's got filters on that. Obviously not particularly good ones, but functional. Which, again, I'll have to when I dive in, we'll see if it's actually good or necessary. But I've got another filter just in case. The next I'm bringing, this is another effects unit. And this is really, really cool. This is another Mutable Instruments module, and this is beads. So it's just a texture synthesizer. What it is at its very core is a really good delay and a reverb. So if you just want your basic bread and butter effects, this does that and then some. It's also got all the granular synthesis on top of that. And it's a fully featured voice, a completely functioning voice and wavetable voice with all of the cool mutable wavetables on it as well. And of course, Rings into Beads is an absolute classic. And on top of that, it's good to have an effect. And if I want to have another voice or maybe something to sample, because this can do really, really cool drone sounds. So if you don't just mess around with these attenuate randomizers and just let it do its thing, it really creates some fantastic sounding drones. So we're nearly halfway there, nearly halfway there. Let's get this plugged in here and get this plugged in. We can fit that in here. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, let's do another little quick test, just make sure everything is functioning correctly. And ripples, just to double check, I think we'll need to get a cable and just plug something into it. Nothing, so is this not plugged in? Huh. Right, this is what, okay. Okay, so it is working fine. Lovely, continue. Next, we have what should we put on next? What should we put on next? Well, this should fit. We hope. Perfect. Multifunction module. We have the Disting EX. This is an absolute beast of a module. And I think just calling it a multifunction module doesn't do it justice. It's not a jack of all trades, it's a master of all trades. It's got a DX7 in it, and originally I was going to be also bringing Ornament and Crime because I wanted a quantizer. However, as of a few days ago, the Disting EX has now got a quad quantizer. So I managed to get rid of the Ornament and Crime, and instead of that, I put in rings. So I've got a quantizer that can go with the sequencer that I'll show you shortly. Disting EX is really, it does. All of its apps are really, really crazy. And I've been mainly using the DX7 on it. Absolutely, it's got a DX7, and I've got the tiny MIDI breakout as well, so you can plug in a MIDI keyboard. So it also gives me polyphony, which is quite rare and quite expensive in Eurorack. So this is definitely something to have. And again, if there's anything I'm missing, then this will be able to fill in, and basically this can do pretty much everything. So I'm just trying out of camera to get this all aligned the right way, and try and get this plugged in now. And yeah, it's really, the Disting, when I first got it, it wasn't used that much, you know, because this is very much you have to learn really how to use the interface. Once you do, and you get the logic behind all of the menu system, then you can really use the thing to its absolute full potential. And I can't recommend this enough. If you want a multifunction module, just get this. And it's not like one of the multifunction modules where you necessarily always just switch a new thing each patch, but it can be anything you want. It really can. Like if you want it to be, let's say you want it to be a DX7, you can just pull out all of the controls, you know, and it's really, really got all of the features. You can do absolutely everything. If you just want it to be a reverb, can do that as well. You know, it can literally do absolutely anything. So here we have first half of our travel case built. So we've got our main sound source here, we've got our clock, we've got some effects and another potential sound source. We've got all kinds of dynamics control, we've got a filter, we've got an effect, and we've got a multifunction module. Let's get that plugged in. So next we're going to move on to sequencing, and my sequencing is fairly limited, so it's not like I have a huge amount of choice for it. So I'm bringing two specific sequencers. I'm bringing a pitch sequencer and I'm bringing a gate sequencer. The gate sequencer I am bringing, I cannot shout its praises enough. This is absolutely fantastic. This is Steppy by Intelligel, 4 tracks, and it is so playable. You could do drops, you could do breakdowns. It's really, really easy to program, and I just love it. It's also, well, I've only got 2 gate sequences, so I've got this, and I've also got Euclidean circles, which is really, really good. It's got more channels, but it's not as playable as this. So I'm going to take this, and the idea behind this, I can have 3 channels for drums most of the time, and then I've got another channel for anything else if I so desire. This has been, I had to, out of all of the modules, this is the one that I had to clean with something more than just a duster before, because I play this all the time. And if you want a gate sequencer that you want to mess around with drums, you will be very happy with this. It's really, really good, and it's playable, right? It's not just about, you know, programming in intricate beats. It's playable. As far as kind of generative random stuff, well, that's not really its forte, but programming in beats does it really, really quickly. So yeah, this is a fantastic little sequencer here. Move this along so we can catch the other. It's also really small as well. So yeah, if you're into a gate sequencer or trigger sequencer, you want something for drums, I would strongly recommend looking at this. You will be very, very happy with it. So next to the gate sequencer, trigger sequencer, I have a pitch sequencer. And for that, I have not Desmodus Versio, that's coming in later, if we can find it. Here it is. Same company though. Mimetic Digitalis. So this is a 4-track pitch sequencer or CV sequencer made by Noise Engineering, and it is so good. Beyond just, you know, jamming, because it's got the shred function, so you can really mess around and you can go back to the original programmed melody. You can store loads of, you can store presets on it, and you can also use it as a kind of preset manager, because the clock, it doesn't care if it's irregular, it just takes a clock signal or then move to the next. So you can use this to change scenes with a really slow clock as well. Just a really, really good little sequencer. Programming it is not great though. So if you want to program in melody, the only thing you have is you've got this, right? So if you want to do volt per octave, you push down and then turn it, and then if you just turn it without pushing it down, you can get very small increments. Really, really good. only say an awful lot more with it. It has been used, I've used it already as a pitch sequencer, I've used it as a preset manager. Basically, it stores boatloads of voltages. So what you do with them is entirely up to you. And it's got it's 4 channels, so it's got 4 outputs as well. And all of this really fancy input stuff as well. So it's also addressable. So you can address any of the 16 steps within this. I haven't done that yet. I just sort of use it as a 4, an 8, or a 16 track sequencer. But that's something we need. We need a sequencer, and this is what I have, and this is what we have. It's pretty small as well. Next thing bringing is probably one of the most famous modules in all of Eurorack, Make Noise Maths. I built a travel kit a while back, and instead of maths, I took mutable instrument stages, and boy, that was a mistake. More is not always better. The usability of maths is just off the chart. It's so intuitive, right? You just twist, and it does what you expect it to do. The envelopes sound nice, clock divisions and stuff like that. It's so intuitive. It makes it much easier than something else. So I'm taking this because I find it better to create envelopes and LFOs than stages. And we've got the old attenuator randomizer, so if I want knobs that I can twiddle, I can just plug these into something else, and I've got a means to control parameters. It's a bit big, but I think for the size, it's really, really worth it. It just sounds good. It's really creative as well. Like, it's inspiring, and I think that this is important when you're making music. You can't just have all of the functions, right? Because if it's got that, like, who's made a piece of music that will break your heart on, I don't know, a Behringer? Not knocking them, you know. I when I was started off, I've certainly had those in the past, but like conceptually, when you're playing music, you're creating emotion, right? And if you've got a tool that can resonate and amplify that, it's really helpful. And especially, you know, when you're doing something like modular, which is a completely custom instrument, right? You're designing your own perfect instrument. Well, everything should be kind of perfect, and maths really is pretty perfect for what it does. Great little module. Next, we have some plumbing, which is something that's not often talked about, but it's really, really important. What I have here is I've got another mutable instrument module links. So what this is a 1-to-3 mult. It's a precision adder, and then it's a unity mixer as well. I've never actually used the precision adder on it, but I've used it very often as a way to, you know, distribute signals, and you can mix with it as well. I haven't found an awful lot of use for this as a mixer yet, but that's mainly because I've got loads of mixers. Really, I've got loads of mixers, probably more than I need. Or should have, but again, right, having this here, I'm sure I'll find a funky use for it. And if I don't, well, then we'll know, right? Then we'll know. The next bit of, I guess, plumbing is what they say we should never have too many of, which is VCAs. And what I have here, this is again another mutable instruments module called Veils, and this is for VCAs. Now, the reason I chose this is beyond the fact that it's useful. You can use it as a mixer, you can use it to attenuate signals. On top of that, I can plug in a short SM58 into here boost it up and gives enough gain, so I don't need a separate microphone preamp. Was thinking of just taking ears instead, which is another Mutable Instruments module that's got a really good preamp on it, but that again is a little bit too specific, right? This I will have many uses for. What I could also do, right, is I can use it to control envelopes for these three, use 3 channels of that. And I got me some polyphony, got me some polyphony on Eurorack, which is pretty cool. Yeah, it's just nothing particularly sort of sexy about it. It's just 4 really high quality VCAs with all the bells and whistles, so you can control the curve from linear to logarithmic, and then you can also add an offset voltage as well if you really fancy going to town and add in all kinds of extra level. Very clean sounding as well, so yeah, not much really to be said about those. Fantastic little module. So sad that Mutable Instruments ended. Like, I adore all of their, like, everything I've had from them has been really moving, except streams. I've never got along with streams. Not streams, stages. I never got along with stages. It's got all the functions, but I just, like, the envelopes aren't really snappy on it. The LFOs are okay, but it just didn't gel with me. So the next module that I'm bringing, this is very much a personal choice and probably one of my favorite modules in the whole wide world. So you can see it's got a belt and brick underneath. So this is one of these like digital reverb bricks that you get in pedals, like a really classic old sounding. This is Bunker Archeology, and it's so good. It's my make everything sound a shitty and old machine. So it's a reverb and then a kind of envelope following static circuit. You just plug anything into this and it just sounds like the 1940s if you plug it in. If you just want a reverb, you could do that as well, and then it's also got a very interesting kind of static VCA that you can use as well. Just a inspiring module. Like, it's just so inspirational. I just love the sound, and it can even if you overload the tank on it, you can even start creating it makes its own sound as well, which is pretty sweet. Let's just get these plugged in. So yeah, this one is definitely a personal choice. There's certainly more, I guess, practical modules that you could have instead, but I just really like it, and everything just sounds so cool. Like, if you put vocals through this, it sounds like it's from like the 1940s. This is a bunker simulator. It's just a fantastic module. A little bit, say, esoteric. It's not really esoteric. It just has the sound that I like. It just has the sound that I like, and it makes things sounding old and crappy really easy to do. And to boot, it's got a you can use it just as a normal reverb, which is great. We're getting close. Ooh, we're getting close to the end. We've only got 2 more modules. So before we continue, I should probably do another little test. Make sure that everything's working. And it appears so. Mimetic isn't though. So I've probably not plugged it in. Have a little look. always a fear that you've damaged something, but no, I just didn't plug it in. So I've unplugged it from the module so I can actually get in without, without moving everything, but that's really probably just going to make things more difficult. Make some more space. Lovely. So that's that, and then make sure red stripe is down. Beautiful. So after this, there are only 2 more modules to add. That is something I think that I was umming and ahhing over, but then I decided to go with it. We'll talk about that after we talk about the module that I mentioned earlier. And that is Desmodus Versio, the versatile vampire. So this is a reverb. It's a fancy reverb, and it's the only fancy reverb I have. So this is coming. Normally I just have this as a master reverb, but it's really cool on single voices as well. Like you can use it as an effect. Kind of wish I had more of them. But there we go, because you can also, because it's the Versio platform, it's on I think Daisy whatever, so you can plug in, they've got all other kinds of Versios as well, so they've got delay, they've got compressor, all kinds of cool stuff. I've only just used it as the reverb, and it's just a really good sounding reverb, really good to dial things in. One thing I found is for a master reverb, I have it on the shimmer, and then just normal, and I have the size about here. That's about right. Anything kind of bigger and it starts making drums sound muddy, but that's a really nice setting to just pull things together. And then of course you can absolutely go over the top, and it's got some mad, if you put the regen all the way to the right, it's got a weird sort of side chainy kind of input. So anytime the sound comes in, it ducks the reverb. Just an all-round great sounding module. And leads us now to the final module, and that is a mixer, and the mixer is the Toppobrillo Minimix. This is nearly perfect. It has one design choice which is interesting. Channels 1, so this is a stereo mixer. It's got 6 channels, 2 of them are stereo. Really just great quality, small. It's got mutes as well, which is great. The only thing is, channels 1 and 6 are hard panned. So this is hard pan to the left, and this is hard pan to the right. So what I've done is, you've got these little pots over here, and I've kind of smushed it so it's just right of center, which is fine, because I normally use this as a drum mixer. So I've got the WMD percussion set, and I just have them all into here. And this channel here is my cymbal, which happily sits just left of center. As to other kind of uses of that, I understand the thought process behind it. You know, it kind of forces you to be a bit more creative with panning, but like 9 times out of 10, that's not what you're going to be using it for. You're just going to be using it for a mixer, and having to put like 5 volts into 2 channels just to have them centered is not ideal. However, It's a really, really small mixer. The sound is great, and it's got mutes. So apart from that, it's absolutely fantastic. So as you can see, we've only got 3. There's not enough for us to plug in absolutely perfectly, but I think we will survive. Let's just get that in. Get this screwed in, and we should be nearly good to go. There's one last thing I would just want to do before we switch it on and make sure everything's working. There's a little bit of space over here, and I have, if I can find it, perfectly little sized 1 HP plate. And the good thing with this as well is it also gives me 2 spare knurlies for when I inevitably lose one. And there we have it, the travel modular rig based around the Squid Salmple. So let's just switch it on. Desmodus is not working. So that's presumably I forgot to plug that one in as well. Right, let's get this plugged in. Always horrible to try squeeze these in, you have to rely on touch, but that went in relatively easily. There we go. And it's working, brilliant. So there we have it. This is my travel modular rig. The overview, we have Squid Salmple as the main sound source. This is going to be doing both drums and voices. It's going to be sequenced by Mimetic, Digitalis and Steppy. If I need anything quantized, I've got the Disting to do that as well. With regards to anything generative wise, got Pam's new workout that can generate some stuff, Disting as well. I've got rings. This is an effects processor. It's also my favorite sound in the world. I've got streams, basically compressor. It can be used as a Vactrol as well. Use it for envelopes, just basic vanilla compression. We've got ripples, which is a really, really good filter. We've got beads, which is a fantastic, multi-effect. It's a delay and a reverb with taken to the logical extreme, absolutely fantastic with a full voice. We've got the Disting EX, which is can do basically everything with MIDI input. We've got Steppy, which is our step sequencer for gates. We've got Mimetic Digitalis, which is a pitch sequencer. We've got Maths, which is again another multifunction module. It can create sounds, it can do LFOs, all that good stuff, and really, really easy to use. We've got Links, which is a bit of plumbing. We've got Veils, which is 4 VCAs, also plumbing. We've got Bunker Archeology, which is a very special sounding lo-fi reverb envelope follower. We've got Desmodus Versio, which is a fancy reverb. And then we have the Toppobrillo Minimix, which we will mix everything together in. It's got headphones as well, so I can do this on the move. And there it is. I'll get something recorded pretty soon for this. Bye-bye.